Hi, everyone, and welcome to our panel today, Untitled Strategies to Fuel Your Future. We are the Young Women's Alliance. We're situated here in Austin, Texas. We have a lot to cover today, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. But my name is Sydney Cardenas, and I will be moderating today's panel. Today's agenda looks like we are going to have some introductions of our panelists here, as well as 4 topics that are really near and dear to YWA's heart. There are 4 pillars. Within each topic, we'll be discussing different questions or points of reference and different stories that each of our panelists have toward how network, educate, serve, and lead really impacted them in their lives in these different ways, as well as closing remarks and then a Q&A scheduled for the end. So without further ado, I would like all of the panelists to please go off mute and introduce themselves from left to right, top to bottom. And I will go ahead and go first in this way. So my name is Sydney Cardenas. Like I had mentioned, I am a VMware onboarding specialist at SHI within the industry of tech sales. So if all of the panelists don't mind also mentioning their career and the industry that they are in.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alyssa Rolfe. I lead a digital marketing team at IBM, so working in technology.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie Sloan, and I'm an account director at Qualia, which is the title and escrow software. And so I'm in tech sales.
Good afternoon, ladies. My name is Morgan Perry. I'm the marketing and proposal coordinator for White Construction Company. So I'm in the architecture, engineering, and construction realm. And funny that Sydney just mentioned SHI. We actually just built their headquarters here in Austin not too long ago.
It's a very nice office building. I killed it.
Hi, I'm Shelby Vaughan. I am a design and production engineer at Bill McClung Inc. I work in the aerospace industry.
Good afternoon. My name is Jessica Rongen. I've been with the YWA for 4 years, and I am a co-founder at a company called Sync USA, and we are in the business of bringing technology vendors such as VMware with people like SHI. So kind of full circle with Sydney. But happy to discuss further if you want to know more about the business.
So going into the first major topic today, which is networking, I have a question. It's pretty just general of, do you guys on the panel have mentors today? And if so, how has that mentorship impacted you either today or previously within your career?
I'll go ahead and jump in if I can, Sydney. Yes, though I do. I have actually 2 mentors right now and 2 mentorship programs that I'm a part of. One of them is through the Society for Marketing Professional Services. It is an organization well within the AEC industry, so the architectural, engineering, and construction realm. It is someone within a higher level VP position in business development. So while I'm in marketing and she's in business development, we're kind of gaining different opinions and perspectives on what I have a little bit of a hand in, which is building relationships with those within our industry. And she's full on in that, and I'm full marketing, helping our organizations win projects, really promote our companies and all things marketing. And second is we have a mentorship program within our organization. I'm partnered with one of our vice presidents from our operational standpoint. So I'm learning all things construction. So all of our techniques, processes, and tools. Big part of what I do is talk and promote about our company. And in order for me to do that, I have to get in the mindset of what it's like to be a project manager or superintendent. So those are the 2 mentorship programs that I'm a part of right now. And it's incredibly helpful just to advance myself in my career, but also building relationships with my colleagues, and also building relationships within other similar roles within my industry.
I was going to ask, as a follow-up to you specifically, it sounds like your mentors, while on a similar trajectory, just different at the same time. Can you talk a little bit more on how those differences really help you grow from that mentorship?
Sure. So again, my opinion, and a lot of what I focus on is building relationships. In my opinion, what we do isn't as important as the people that we know and the relationships that we have. So the unique perspectives of each of these mentors for me is they're so drastically different, right? They've got such a different background. I didn't go to school for construction science, so having a mentor who is teaching me all the ins and the outs of what he does every day, that runs our business, that works with our clients, that builds the businesses that we currently help, like SHI, it's a completely shift in perspective, and having those unique relationships and different relationships from what I do every day, it is different avenues, right? You get the same, point A to point B. There may be 4 different routes to get to the same location, but each of these mentors is showing me a different perspective on how to get to the same goal. So that to me is so important because it's a completely different perspective than what I have.
Sydney, I'd love to chime in here as well from my perspective, because I think I've approached mentorship in a little bit of a different way, whereas I'm not a part of any formal programs. But what I've learned working for a company as big as IBM is that to build a career at a big company, it's all about networking and kind of finding the people who are going to be there to give you advice or help you kind of find that next job within the company. So for me, mentorship has been a lot more informal. Whether it be my boss or someone who used to be my boss or even a peer, right? To me, a mentor is someone that I can reach out to if I have a question, need help. And I think another big part of mentorship is the people who know you well enough to help you find kind of the opportunities that are going to help you level up your career.
Yes, and I can speak to that as well. In my younger years, I worked for a Fortune 500 company, similar size to IBM, and I really just had open conversations with my managers. It was a really informal process. It was a male-dominated industry, and my peers were males, and I was really trying to find my footing, and because they were very competitive, and I always wanted to sit back and learn, and I had to be open with my manager and see how I could navigate, moving up into my career. And we found a successful woman within that industry in that company. And just having those conversations turned into a formal mentorship program. And it opened so many avenues. So I think the biggest thing is always being open within any organization that you're in to find someone that can help you along with some of those questions that you may have about your career.
Going off of the informal mentorship path, I think that also ties into just networking in general, right? Like finding those people. So how, when it comes to just finding your footing with networking and when you start, how do each and every one of you network? What is your biggest and easiest way that you get out there and you put your name in the world and you find these people, not just within your company, but anywhere in Austin or throughout the world? What does that look like for y'all?
I would say, I think one of the most important things to open yourself up to that is being curious, and being open to being vulnerable and asking for help or asking for insight or someone's time with a specific intent. What are you trying to learn or understand about, this person that you're being connected with or that you're asking to be connected to? I think that's an important place to start.
I think there's sometimes a misconception about networking that, you should just be able to like walk into a room and have small talk and, walk away with like valuable connections. But I so agree with you, Stephanie. It's like you have to go into networking knowing like what is the outcome that you want to walk away with. And then what is like your unique value proposition that you can tell about yourself to the people that you meet based on what you're trying to achieve.
And I think with the Young Women's Alliance, when I first moved to Austin in 2015, and I've lived in Hawaii, I've lived in Chicago, I'm from Minnesota originally. So knowing that I really wanted to gain friends, peers, people, entrepreneurs, like-minded people, Young Women's Alliance was something that I put myself out there to do. And, the first meeting that I had, the first meeting I was in, it was about signing up for committees, and I just hopped right into a committee. with skill sets that I have in the events industry. And I think that was, just kind of taking that leap and kind of aligning it with your personal and professional values. So that intent that you were talking about, Stephanie.
Yeah, I'm sort of naturally an introvert, so I kind of have to force myself to find those organizations that are going to keep me accountable for going to meet people and trying to find that information that I'm looking for, and then share my resources with other people. So any sort of organization that sort of kind of matches to what you're looking for, it could be like a volunteering organization that is going to make you excited to go there and to be a participant. I think that sort of helps you find those people that have shared interests.
I do agree. I think all of you made a good point there about shared interests. And once you find a shared interest with somebody else, it kind of helps that conversation naturally progress and continue to networking. Even if it's something super small, that one shared interest all of a sudden can blossom into a whole new career opportunity. So I think you all kind of hit the nail on the head there. And kind of going off of just mentorship and networking, has any of you ever come out of a networking conversation or mentorship or anything like that and wanted to actually further your career in a different trajectory than you had before and maybe go down a different educational path? And just moving on to the next topic.
I have, it's not very professional. It's more in line with my service. Everywhere that I've lived, I've wanted to serve in my community. And this last year during COVID, I made a friend through Instagram, and he has opened my world up into a lot of different avenues of the life that I'm, building for myself. He's a part of an organization called West Cave and working with kids and nature and stuff like that. And so now, just by connecting with someone, putting myself out there and meeting this person, has opened so many different doors, and there's other doors that it's opened as well. So it really refreshed, especially during COVID last year, just meeting someone, but just like my perspective on what I want to do in the next 1 to 2 years with service.
One thing that has actually really helped me in my role in the past was I'm very curious about tech and software and data, but I'm in a sales or account management role, or have been in the past. And so there's only so much that's connected there. And so I had a couple coffee conversations with the director of engineering at one of my past companies. And it was awesome because that insight, even though very high level, it allowed me to speak to and be more aware of some of the issues or concerns that I had within my role or within my team, and how, without getting too into it, just like missing pieces or gaps. But the perspective and understanding of how complex some of that engineering stuff is, right? So much more than we salespeople might think. It really helped me take a step back in communicating with product and marketing and be a little more empathetic in requesting what I'm looking for or information that I need, which has helped me create stronger relationships with those departments, which isn't quite in terms, I'm not learning, data analysis, but it's really helped me in my role.
I think any type of education, and you went and seek that out, you were trying to invest back into yourself and just soaking up that information. I would say that is education, even if it's not like a formal, you didn't go back to coding school or something, but you still put in that extra effort to learn something new. And I think that's really important, right?
It has definitely helped me in the last 5 years, even those 2-3 coffee conversations. Absolutely.
And it's just kind of a little bit of tidbit into the industry and the company that we have built is we bring IT professionals together. So we bring, networking and education and learning from peers. So I think it's just interesting that we're talking about all of this, and that's my livelihood. So if you ever want to learn more about tech, we definitely have a lot of people, Stephanie, that we network with across the US primarily.
This is networking done at its finest. This is a prime example. No, that's awesome. And then I know that this doesn't have anything to do with education of itself, but it is a question I want to ask this group in particular. We live in a very tech-centric city, right? Austin is supposed to be the new Silicon Valley. Most of us on this call do work in tech in some capacity, and a lot of it seems to be more male-dominated. I'm curious to hear from the panel your high-level experience within that industry, and just any advice or any thoughts that you have that you can share with the panel, with the audience today. It's a very general question, so you can take that however you would like. It's not very pointed.
I can start. So again, with the industry that I'm in, I'm not really in tech. I'm in events and marketing. We're putting on the events for the IT individuals and the tech vendors. But, you know, for education and networking purposes, you know, we have our first event tomorrow and I'm nervous, you know, and I think it's in Phoenix, and just going and speaking to IT individuals. I'm coming from a back-end events side of it, but I do need to go in and present myself in a way of a world where these IT individuals have such high level knowledge within their industry. You know, I still have to be present and network and make sure that they're networking and then they're facilitated in the right way. So that's kind of where I live within that question.
So I think this is such an interesting question because, you know, working for IBM, it's a very big, but like, I would say like mostly like historically like white male dominated company. And the marketing, I would say like the marketing organization is the piece of the company right now that's driving a lot of the just like overall diversity and inclusion initiatives and outcomes for the company as a whole. And when we first started, you know, moving to virtual work, you know, it was this really interesting dynamic of like, we're very, you know, in marketing, we're very casual. We don't feel the need to get dressed up for work every day, but we'd be getting on these WebEx, you know, or like, you know, virtual meetings with these, you know, old sales guys that are still like in their button ups and their suits, like in their home office. And at first I sat there and I was like, do I need to start like putting on makeup and like getting dressed in the morning? And then at the end of the day, I was kind of like, you know, I think as long as you present yourself in a way that exudes professionalism and that you are confident and know your stuff, that at the end of the day, I don't think that stuff matters. And I think over the last 18 months, we've come a long way to normalize that, right? I think at first it was like, it was weird, but now I think we've come so far just in terms of like normalizing that as women, we don't have to get dressed up and put on makeup to talk to a man. And I'd say that's, I think, one of the positives that's come out of the entire pandemic situation.
Enormously. Alyssa, I could talk for a half hour about that alone, but I completely agree.
And as far as my perspective, I am so far removed from a technological industry. I mean, I'm very much like what Alyssa just said. A lot of our industry is older white males. So it's a very male dominated industry and not very technological, but right. So we're forced to have to adapt, and the marketing side of what I do is 100% technology. We're all about it. We're all about the new stuff, the new trends. And you don't have to be the most confident in it, but it's that curiosity. It's that constant education, knowing what's going on in the world, even if you're not using it, is so incredibly vital and important. Because if there was ever a day, and I think when COVID first hit, no one was expecting everyone to go remote and having to learn all these things, and you're kind of forced into that realm. But having some understanding or even just knowing what's happening in the world is so important to any role that you play within any organization in any industry.
No, that's awesome. And I think it also ties back into that reinvesting in education portion, especially with technology and just being curious. I've heard multiple I've heard that being said a lot, even just now in the last 25 minutes, when it comes to how to network and how to really get something out of education, is just to continue to stay curious, and things will come from that, right?
And there's so many free resources I feel like available to people these days to do education. So I've done, multiple courses or whatnot to help me, but then, there's also tons of free resources that are available on the internet, right? So I think it's also, as you're networking and meeting people who are maybe in a job that you would like to have one day, just asking them, like, what do they have that they might recommend that you do? Like if someone came to me, or I think it was my sister, she was like, I want to work in digital marketing. What should I do? I was like, well, here, do these Google certifications, inbound marketing certifications, and they're all free online, right? So also just asking those questions, and people that you meet will be able to kind of point you in different directions and help you find different educational resources that you don't have to pay for, which is even better.
I think just the one best part about COVID was all of the free resources that came to the surface for online education.
I think it is important also to say that with mentorship and networking, you may always think that you're trying to find, or you may not know, try and find what you are meant to be doing, or you don't know what you're doing, but it's a process of elimination along the way. When I had a mentor in my early 20s with that company that I worked for, in hindsight, I'm so happy that she was there, but I'm in a completely different career and my path is completely different from where it was. I was very grateful for the time that I had with her and the opportunities that she let me explore, but I was definitely not in the right industry at the time.
Yeah, I had a mentor when I was in college, an internship that I had. Sort of towards the end of the internship, they made it clear that they kind of maybe wanted me to come back after college. And I was like, I talked to him candidly. I said, I don't know if this industry is for me. And so we sort of worked through my options because he was in the same field as me. And we talked about the way that my education could be applied in different industries. And I'm just really thankful for him and sort of his willingness to push me in an area that wasn't aligned with his. So I think finding those people and recognizing that they're going to be that helpful to you is really important.
I think that's one of the greatest gifts I've received from a mentor is their scope and experience is different or significantly greater than mine was, and so them pushing you is huge, and understanding of what you can do with that is half of the gift there.
Yeah, because kind of, when you're trying to find something new or do something different, sort of all those options that you could have, they get so overwhelming. So having someone with that experience just say, well, I've kind of been there, you maybe don't want to do that. It's very valuable.
Someone with that much experience can also probably get you those connections that you didn't have before to those very niche positions that you didn't know about.
Mm-hmm.
It's a full circle. Yeah, because I think for a hot minute there, I was considering going to law school. And when you tell anyone that, they immediately ask you, what type of lawyer do you want to be? And doing research into all of the different niche pieces of law, I would have had no idea what direction to go in, let alone how to get there from all of the different pieces throughout everywhere. But once you find that person that not only has that knowledge of what those positions do, they typically have the connections to follow to get you those roles. Switching gears, when it comes to service, I know all of you have done a lot of different volunteer opportunities, not just with YWA, but different organizations. Can you talk a little bit on how service or volunteer opportunities have either helped you build your career skills in a weird way or helped your networking skills in a way that you weren't anticipating?
I love this question. I feel like this is one of my favorite things to talk about because I think service can provide just so many opportunities to you in terms of your network, your career. But this isn't my story, but it's someone that I worked with I do marketing by day, and I also say I do marketing by night because I also lead marketing for the Young Women's Alliance. But I've seen women who join my committee to learn the skills and then go out and get a job to do it, right? So I had a committee member, she wanted to work in marketing. She'd never worked in marketing before, wanted that side hustle. And so she joined the committee. She ran our social media for about 6 months. And then after getting those skills, she actually started a little side hustle and started doing social media management on the side for companies, and was able to bring in an additional source of income for herself based on the skills that she gained through her service with the Young Women's Alliance. I think there's so many opportunities to do that, like depending on what skills you want. Like no nonprofit's going to turn you away if you raise your hand and you say, I want to do this for free. But how do you kind of take what you do for free and like put some ROI on it by, using it to go and either get a new job, get a pay increase, or start a side hustle? I think it's so attainable through nonprofit service. One of the easiest ways.
Not only easy, but incredibly rewarding too. I grew up doing a ton of volunteer work. And then when I moved to Seattle, I didn't have that network or those connections. And so I was able to volunteer through work. And we would go volunteer at the Children's Hospital once a quarter. And that allowed me to get exposure and interact with different teams, because everyone at my last company was able to volunteer. So that allowed me to expand my networking within my company. Whereas, I'm on one floor with all salespeople, but volunteering throughout the community puts you in front of people that you would never have normally been exposed to, whether it be, just think of any volunteer opportunity that you have that's a public, that's in the public. CEOs and high level executives or parents, I've volunteered for like children things, and the parents show up. Well, those parents are working at companies or leading companies or what have you. And there's a lot of casual conversation that can be developed into a lot more than just that through volunteer opportunities.
I think that, the question goes both ways. When you volunteer for service, you can also network, but also networking can bring you into some of the service people that have the same alignment with you and what your values are. Through the YWA, I have kind of leaned on some of those people, the connections that I've made that are entrepreneurs as well. I really enjoy that relationship that I've built with some of those females within the organization, because just by, doing service, by being a part of YWA, by being a part of a committee, I've made those relationships, and that's almost like a mentorship to me, having people that have similar careers, because not everyone's an entrepreneur, and I'm looking for a mentor right now. I just want to put that out there. Yeah, I think, you can serve and network and also find those same people that will serve with you.
I think everything that y'all have said is exactly what I was wanting you guys to say. And to top that all off, it really is, to Stephanie's point, rewarding to be able to put in this time and effort and be able to not only see what you're doing actually helping other people, but in return, it sounds really selfish, but it's true. Like, you're able to make new connections out of that, whether or not it's with the volunteers that you're with, or if it's with the people that you're helping, or the people that are hosting the event. There's just so many opportunities when you put yourself out there. Just because I'm curious, where are y'all's favorite places to volunteer right now?
I actually just joined a company that's actually based out of Houston, but they've got a few volunteers here in Austin. It's called Floranthropy. I have always just had a fascination with flowers, and I have no background in it. I'm always one will go to like an HEB and just grab a bunch of flowers and create centerpieces if we're hosting a party or whatever it may be. So I said, why don't I have no idea. And I started to Google and search and see if there was any volunteer opportunities out there that had anything to do with flowers. And Floranthropy popped up. And what they do is they end up taking these donated flowers, like from a wedding, a bride will call the organization and say, I would like to donate my flowers. We go and pick them up and we kind of clean them up, and then we redonate them to senior living facilities or hospitals or a lot of organizations that, really need just a little bit of brightness of flowers in their day. And it's something that's totally unrelated to what I do for a living. It is just absolutely so different and unique, but it's a personal passion of mine, and it's a really unique way to meet people. And it is something so rewarding, because you think about all the seniors who are in there who don't have the visitors, who don't get those flowers anymore. And it's just something so pure and genuine. So that's one of mine that I'm currently doing right now.
For me, access to food is really important. So Meals on Wheels, I've been a part of for the past couple of years. And with the food bank, I enjoy doing the mobile food pantries, especially during COVID, where people can just drive up. I mean, they're really big. They're kind of intense, like 4 hours in the sun some mornings, but just being able to provide that service and the access of food, the people that are mobile that can get it, and Meals on Wheels, like delivering food, especially during COVID, where, before COVID happened, it would be, you could pick a route and you would see the same people every time. And now that's changed for them. And the individuals that are in this program don't really see a lot of people on a regular basis anyway. So anytime, dropping food off and seeing people just smile, makes my day. And it's so quick and it's so easy, and I can get it done in less than an hour. So I recommend that. But also I'm excited to hear what everyone else is interested in, because in our company, we're building out a culture committee, and service is one of the pillars that we are going to have. And each quarter we're going to be doing something. So bring all the ideas out, because I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, a company I just worked for in Austin. I recently started a new job. Service was one of their big pillars in their sort of culture, and we had volunteer time off and all this kind of stuff. So once a month, my operations team would go to Ronald McDonald House, and we'd spend the whole morning making breakfast for them. But it was sort of interesting because my whole team was there, and as we're making breakfast, we're sort of developing those more core connections with each other outside of work, so that way we can go back into work and recognize what's important to everyone. So I mean, like, we have our chief of operations who we look to every day. He's over there burning the bacon, so we can all laugh about that and have some shared experience that makes us all a little closer.
I volunteer as a big sister in Big Brothers Big Sisters, but I would consider this my first volunteer opportunity in a long time that is in the realm of what I would love to continue to serve on. And Amanda, before everyone joined, you asked about that email, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think I've gotten that email, because I'd love to be able to do some consultative, or I forget what it's called, but the consultant, the 1 hour, because I have thought about doing career coaching on the side. Well, I can't afford to do the career coaching on the side or as a full-time hustle, and so this allows me to get a little bit of the things I'm passionate about, job search, interviewing skills, negotiation, all of that, without while giving back, but also, filling up my cup in terms of passion. So how about you, Alyssa?
I'm a big fan of the Girls Empowerment Network. I feel like I'm just really passionate in general about helping women rise into, get into the workforce, rise into leadership. And I think the work the Girls Empowerment Network is doing is just like, it's really like on the ground, like with these girls who are, elementary, middle school age, and how we teach them resilience and confidence, and give them kind of that head start from the get-go. So I am looking forward to getting back to volunteering with them once schools are back in session, and hopefully their programming is back up and running in the fall.
Yes, to add on that, Alyssa, like that was one of the, I forget what they call their little day conference, like little kid conference, like to go there and to volunteer, like the energy and the excitement of what those kids are about is just amazing. And then all the different, like they have yoga, they have tech, they have just access to so much to help them grow and like learn all the different things. I mean, I didn't know about yoga when I was a kid, but you know, it's just, it's a really interesting conference. And so when that comes around, I highly recommend people volunteering for that.
On the community impact side, we'll try our best to make sure we're a part of that. And then for the sake of time, I'm going to be moving on to leadership, but obviously being the community impact events co-chair, I loved hearing all of your service and what makes you passionate, because I mean, that's just awesome from my perspective, for selfishly. When it comes to leadership, what does leadership in a career look like to you?
So I'm going to quote, like say what one of my mentors at work tells me all the time, which is anybody can be a leader. You do not have to be a frontline manager to be a leader. Being a leader, I think, just really means having the organization's best interests at the forefront and moving a group of people towards a collective goal to reach outcomes. And I don't think you have to be like a frontline manager or a director or an executive to do that.
I agree. And I don't even think that as a leader, I think it's even more than just what you're doing within an organization. It's inspiring those around you, whether it's through a volunteering event or it's actually colleagues or a team that you manage and lead. I think that it's you being the best version of yourselves that inspires others to be the best versions of themselves is truly a leader. And a leader is not always the smartest in the room. You are always learning something new. You are always striving. It's that educational, it's that networking standpoint. You're always demonstrating your vulnerability, because that's truly how you grow and learn and evolve. And humility is humbling. That's what I've always thought and said, because it truly is. And as a leader, there is nothing more humbling than knowing your mistakes and teaching others what your lessons learned ultimately. So I think for me, it's being an inspiration to those around me.
Yes, I agree with Morgan. I believe that leading is inspiring and empathizing with all the peers around you, no matter what job, activity, project you're working on. I think just inspiring, empathizing, and connecting the why and the purpose as to that specific thing that you're doing. And I don't think it has to be a CEO. I don't think it has to be a title. It's just people that really care about the people around them and want to get them to that from point A to point B.
Morgan, I really connect with what Morgan shared about being a leader. And what I'd like to add there is, and I've seen it in the last almost year at this company, of how grateful I am for the leaders that I have, because not only are they, inspiring and empathetic, but they're also really unafraid of not having the answer, and using their resources and leaning on others to build, knowledge or find answers. And that has been really, it's been really inspiring, especially because, a lot of times as a somewhat of a perfectionist, you want to come in and know everything or be able to answer all the right things at all the right times. And to see, a leader by example, showing you that he doesn't have the answers all the time, and or he hasn't experienced this before, and being as open as he is about how okay that is, has been really wonderful, especially for me to chill out a little bit, and not putting that pressure on myself.
Yes, showing vulnerabilities. You have to be able to say, I don't know how to do this, and it's okay, because we all have the same goal in mind, regardless of whatever job role, project you're working on. If you don't know, you find a way, you figure it out. And doing that collectively is always good.
Something, just chiming in quickly, but something that they like to say in sales that isn't correct is people buy from people they like. That's wrong. People buy from people they trust. And trust comes from showing that vulnerability and being able to say when you don't know things sometimes. And to Jessica's point, when you don't know something, finding that answer, whether that's for me, like that's for my customer, but maybe that's for a coworker or somebody or your friend, and just being able to have that vulnerability to know when not to try to make up something. Because as long as you're confident in stating that, people typically trust it a lot easier. And then I have a close, and we're coming up. I want to make sure we have time for Q&A. And I have a feeling this next question might have some longer answers, which I'm looking forward to. But a closing question for me is just, what is one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self when starting out in your career? Whether that's quite literally fresh out of college or whatever, if you went to college, or later down the road with your new career.
For me, it's quit trying to get to what's next. And I couldn't figure out in the last 30 seconds like a nice way of saying this, but when I would come in, when I first entered my career, I got this role and I was always trying to figure out how to get to the next role. And I learned the hard way, that you have to be successful in your role in order to be looked at for others, and so excelling where you are while keeping your eyes open and, being curious, I think is one thing that would have helped me a lot over the last 10 years.
I think for myself, do not be resistant to change. I have a really hard time with change, but just don't be resistant to it, and just know that whatever path that I'm on, that path may not even exist for where I want to go yet. So just always keeping an open mind and being fluid with changes in life as it comes at you would be my advice to my younger self, then and now.
I think mine would have been settling to appease others hinders your true potential. And I think when we're young and we're fresh out of college, we are always taught that whatever job you take, you stay and you keep it. And I always felt like I was doing that in my young career because I didn't want to be labeled as a job jumper, right? That's always the one thing, leadership will tell you is don't be a job jumper. And I got to a point in my young career where I just said, you know what, I don't like what I'm doing. I'm not happy. And we spend so much of our time settling to appease those others' voices, and you completely lose those years. You don't get them back. And when I stopped caring about that element, I was able to travel and I got to experience different states and different jobs and different roles and different companies and meet so many different people that brought me to where I was today. I mean, I'm from New Hampshire and here I am living in Austin, Texas, and it's taken me 6 years to get to where I am. But if I had settled, I wouldn't have been here. And that would have been my advice to myself as a young career right out of college is don't settle just to appease other people.
I think mine would be to not be afraid to ask for help when you need it. I know when I first started out, I had a lot of imposter syndrome, and I guess I still have a lot of imposter syndrome, but if a lot of people in the organization are going to be there to help you, and they want to help you because they want the whole organization to succeed. So they're going to be willing to give you help when you need it, and maybe even more help than you wanted. They'll give you a lot of resources that you can use to educate yourself for the future. And yeah, I think relying on everyone to be a resource to you to help you grow into your role at the company. I think that was something that I wish I had known.
I think for me, a big lesson learned through the years is just about how important work-life balance is. I've spent the first 3 years of my career in New York City, just like grinding it out, long hours, you know, working like from 8 a.m. to like 9 p.m. and just totally exhausting myself. And I've gotten to a point in my career where I'm very comfortable, and sometimes I have to like have that like inkling of like, am I doing something wrong because I'm finally comfortable and I don't feel like, you know, I'm grinding myself until I like want to die. But and I sometimes have to like take that step back to be like, no, this is just literally what healthy work-life balance looks like, where I'm able to do the things I, you know, do the job I love, be really good at it, but also like have time in my life for the other things that fulfill me as well. And that's been a really hard one for me to learn over the years.
Work-life balance always seemed kind of like a myth, especially at the beginning of COVID, I think, for a lot of people having to work from home. I know for me, I went from working when I was in the office and maybe sometimes a little later if I needed to just being like, oh, my laptop's open, so I guess I should work. And that was not good. But reminding, like, especially with this transition and with offices opening, that's a good reminder for everybody to just know like that work-life balance is important and it's there for a reason if your company allows for it.